He's done it!
Throws up the floater.
Oh, it's astonishing.
Pulls off three-pointer.
We are back with another episode of Off the Record. I believe we're on episode 24. Isn't that crazy? I feel like every week that passes by, it just gets so much more like surreal that we're so deep into this first season. But episode 24, you know who you're talking to. You see us every week. I'm Bailey, joined by my co-host Lachelle, and we're gonna go ahead and jump straight into our picks of the week. Let's talk some college football because, of course, as you know, you see our Instagram. I was talking a little bit about Instagram earlier. We're doing our picks of the week every Friday to post on Saturday. And Lachelle and I, we cooked up some good picks, good enough picks, actually, that Lachelle got a perfect pick. She got Oregon, Alabama, IU,
Hello
Texas Tech. Yes. Pat on the back, Lachelle. Round of applause. W's in the chat for Lachelle and her perfect pick. But yeah, I want to go ahead and touch on specifically one game in particular. I think we all know which game I want to talk about, but I do want to get everyone's 2 cents on the rest of those matchups. Oregon, Iowa, we got LSU, Alabama, and then we got Texas Tech, BYU. I want to start there because myself, and I'm sure many others, were not expecting BYU to go out as bad as they did. They were undefeated coming into this game. Of course, they're playing Texas Tech in Lubbock. Not an easy place to play. Just, not an easy game on the road in general. Going up against a ranked opponent. You're at the time, I believe, number 7 and number 8 in the nation. So, it was a matchup that was kind of a toss-up to begin with. But Lachelle, you obviously had Texas Tech picked for this game. What made you go that direction and say, hey, no, I think they really got this in the bag? Like, this is BYU's last time being undefeated.
Texas Tech has been playing really good football throughout this year. And I think that was something a lot of people talked about, kind of their offense, their defense. And I was impressed thus far. Like, even with the losses that they do have, I was like, this is a very solid team. And you saw it against BYU. I thought offensively they were clicking. They were able to kind of get what they wanted and kind of were able to impose their will a little bit early. And then defensively just made it really hard on BYU. You saw it kind of look a little discombobulated for them, which was uncharacteristic for a lot of people to watch them. But I think Texas Tech just was able to kind of put it all together, seal it all together. And just watching them throughout the year, you're like, man, this team is good. Like, you get them some quality wins, quality opponents. They show you a result like this against a team like BYU.
No, that's a good analysis. I did not get a chance to watch this game like I wanted to, but I got to see the highlights, and I totally agree with you. Texas Tech has been a great team to watch this season so far, and props to them for beating BYU. It's definitely boosted their ranks in the AP poll. Speaking of another big win, IU versus Penn State. Okay. Omar Cooper Jr., man. I'm not gonna lie, this game had me sweating, but the last seconds that had me really sweating, that toe tap touchdown to keep Indiana undefeated. People are calling it the catch of the year. Chat, I want you to let us know what you thought of that catch because I was floored. I was floored. Lachelle, what were you thinking in that moment?
I didn't think they were going to call it a catch. It looked like a catch when they slowed it down and you're like, yo, his toe just grazes it.
Grazes
it.
Yes.
And I'm like, there's no way. Because we've all seen the refs kind of go back and forth throughout this year on what's a catch, what's not a catch. But I'm like, man, it grazes it. Like, he has it. So for them to say, like, it stands, it's a catch, I was like, to make the effort, the body control, I mean, your undefeated season's on the line here. You just walked down the field 87 yards. Like, you can't ask for a better ending if you're Indiana, where you just go out there and you refuse to lose with a toe-tapping touchdown. That was insane. Catch of the year for sure.
Catch of the year. I think there's no argument, no disagreements there. I would like to see someone do it better than Cooper Jr., but I don't know if we will. Season's kind of coming to a close at this point. But like I said, solid game from him to keep Indiana undefeated. It was a little bit of a difficult watch, especially on the offensive side in the second half. We still saw a really good performance from Fernando Mendoza. So good, in fact, that he has now pushed to the front of the Heisman race. Lachelle, I'm curious to know. I've heard some whispers on your end, some takes from your channel that you might be drinking the Fernando Mendoza Kool-Aid. Let me know what you're thinking about him.
Yeah, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I mean, you can't deny what Indiana's doing. And I think out of respect for the play, it's hard to be undefeated. Like, that's not an easy task. However, anyone feels about a conference or your schedule, that's still hard to do. And I think we all thought they're finna lose today. Like, this is going to be their first loss, and it's going to be to Penn State. And I thought he played really to perfection in that final drive. Yes, there's some sacks and some incompletes, some overthrows, but the drive is still sustainable, and it walked them 87 yards for a touchdown. And I think that was his Heisman moment. Everyone talks about that. What's the Heisman moment? That was his Heisman moment. I know a lot of people like to say, well, Julian's saying, I don't think he's had a Heisman moment yet. I think Ty Simpson, I don't know if he's had a Heisman moment yet. I think for Fernando Mendoza, that was a Heisman moment. I can pinpoint this and say he was able to lock in and be the best player on the field, making sure that his offense was able to score to win that game. He's going to be a finalist. He's going to be in New York. Do I think he's the best player in college football? No. But the award is different at times. Last year, Travis Hunter was truly an alien. It was hard for us to deny that. This award will be team success, how you're able to lead that team. And for Fernando Mendoza, he's doing exactly that.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious to know, if Indiana doesn't stay undefeated through the rest of the season, do you think that will change his Heisman chances or the Heisman result?
I think that would be crazy if it did. If I was a voter, I don't know if I would hold a loss against him, depending on how the loss is. All losses are not made equal. If it's like a bad loss and he just plays horrible, maybe, right? But if they get a loss and he still played really well and like it just ended up being kind of a weird loss, I don't think so. I also, for him at least, he's kind of able to steer his own ship. The more they succeed, the more he's going to run away with it. I think everyone's like, you're a program changer. I think that's what's really giving him the edge. Like, Ohio State has had good quarterbacks before, right? Like, Alabama has had good quarterbacks. For Indiana, this is like, whoa, this is different. Like, without him, is this success the same? And I think that's a real conversation. So even if they lost, I don't know if I would overreact. You only got 4 weeks left. I would hope not. But as we know, Heisman voters sometimes cannot be trusted.
Mm-hmm. You bring up something interesting, and this is a hot take, an argument, some might say, that Indiana has not seen a quarterback like Mendoza up to this point. I would argue Penix was really valuable, and he presented some of the same qualities and results at IU as Mendoza, not to the same degree. Obviously, Penix was riddled with injuries while he was in Bloomington. And the difference there is we had Tom Allen versus having Curt Cignetti. I want to know, with that being said, do you think that the difference maker is Mendoza, is the roster, or is Cignetti?
I think it's a culmination of a lot of things. Obviously, Cignetti is such a great coach. I think he's given a culture and a toughness that I don't know if Indiana had before. And I know you could speak to that even more, but it's more of a structured ship. So he definitely gets a ton of credit. But I think I give them credit on seeing what Fernando Mendoza was doing at Cal and saying, hey, we put him in this type of situation. He could be the guy that gets us over the hump. He could be the guy that we believe takes us there. So it's like, they had to think he was a program changer too. And that's no disrespect to like Michael Penix, but he had injuries. There was a lot going with that. Whereas Mendoza really does look like a guy that is comfortable in this role of what he's playing. He doesn't play outside of himself. And I think I can appreciate that. Some guys go out there, they want to do too much, undefeated team. I want to run the ball. I want to do this. He understands what the goal is. We're here to win football games, and he can be very methodical. He's very strategic. We saw it on that final drive, very calm, cool, and collected, delivering dots, throws, not like little dump offs, check downs. We're talking about middle of the field, 15-yard throw, 20-yard throw, sideline throw, back of the end zone throw. Like, these are things that you sit there and you're like, not every quarterback can do that. So I think for him, some credit for him, because I know he doesn't take it, but that's a program changer. He's going to influence how Indiana scouts and recruits for years to come, where I'm sure there's a lot of guys watch him like, man, if he is able to do that, like, man, what if I get 4 years to do it? What if I get 3 years to do it? Like, what can we do? And obviously the roster as well, they're offensively so gifted, defensively have a lot of dogs. I mean, it's all around a lot of credit to give, but I think for at least Fernando Mendoza, you can have everything perfect and still not be a good quarterback. And I think he has been a very tremendous quarterback for them this season.
That's a great point. I'm curious to know with this game specifically and just the quality of this Penn State team, does winning against a ugly win against a desperate Penn State team validate their record, or do you think it brings up some questions about Indiana?
It naturally brings up questions. I mean, the pocket breaking down like it did. We saw Mendoza on the ground a lot more this game than usual, kind of off-timed on some throws in that second half. They looked out of rhythm, right? So those are things you kind of look at and say, hey, when this competition gets better and better, the playoff, you're going to get some really good defenses that can rush and break the pocket the same way. Good thing for Indiana. You can start to address this now before you get to that point. It is an ugly win, but I think for me, it's how you still won. Like, I think a lot of people get up there and it's like, it was ugly and it shouldn't count. And it's like, well, if we sit here every week and say all that matters is that you win and that you find a way to win, and we pat other teams on the back for finding ways to win, you equally have to give them that as well. Doesn't matter if Penn State's desperate, because they were. And I think we all expected them to play hungry. I mean, that just was kind of the nature of it, despite all the dysfunction that's happened. But I looked at Indiana more impressed, because you could have easily been like, let's just take the loss. We're already good. We can win every other game and we'll still be in the playoff. They kind of were still in a good situation, but to sit there and say, no, we don't want to lose this game. We want to go out swinging and fighting as much as possible. And you saw Penn State kind of shocked. Their secondary was horrible. Whatever they were calling was horrible. We got the interim head coach calling a timeout on a first down when all he had to do was spike the ball. Like, you saw them almost be like, wait, they're not conceding. Like, they can afford a loss. Like, we can't.
Right.
So I think it told me a lot about Indiana. They care about what this season looks like. They want to finish strong. And I think if anybody is going to sit there and vote for players and teams and the CFP rankings, you look at Indiana and say, man, there is something here that whoever they play, they will go down swinging to the final second. And that is something to be rewarded.
And to your point, I mean, you look at some of the matchups that we've seen this year, there's been a lot of blowout wins too. This is really the first tough, close game that they've had outside of, I'm trying to think, well, let me look at their record, because now I'm spacing on what game is coming to mind. But the point I'm trying to make is that we haven't seen a lot of this from them. And I think the Oregon game is probably the closest now that I'm looking at the schedule. Because everything else has been just about a blowout win. Iowa was kind of close too, but this was tooth and nail. But yeah, like I said, it's a testament to this team, because like I said, they've been getting a lot of blowout wins under their belt. I think that once you start getting into a rhythm of that, you start getting into a mindset too of like, oh, nothing can stop us. And then once challenge and adversity comes, you kind of get shaken up a bit. And I feel like oftentimes you see teams fall off and you take that, maybe first or second L, and then that can kind of snowball into, a larger effect. However, this Indiana team is built different and a little delusional to a degree, especially with Signetti at the helm of the ship. But that's, like I said, that's what allowed them to win this game. That's what's keeping them undefeated. And I'm excited to see what the rest of the season looks like. I strongly believe that Indiana will stay undefeated through the rest of the year. They have Wisconsin coming up next weekend, and they have Purdue. It's an undefeated year for Indiana. I no doubt. And you know what I'm going to say? Hoosiers. Anybody in the chat want to join me?
Chat loves to do that with you. I feel like they anticipate you doing that every time.
At least once an episode. We're in the middle of college football season. I have to. I mean, honestly, in college basketball season, you might get a couple out of me too. Someone in the chat said Lachelle should do it. Louis in the chat said Lachelle should do it. Lachelle, you want to try it out?
If they go undefeated, I'll do it.
Okay. Somebody needs to clip that and hold Lachelle's word. we're gonna practice a lot on the show. So, when that time does come,
I'll be
maybe
ready.
in 2 weeks. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Lachelle will be ready. It's 3 who's and a Hoosier. There you
Okay.
go. You got
3 who's and okay, I'm gonna practice.
Amazing. All right, we're going to jump into a little bit more college football conversation. This time we're going out west. We're looking at Colorado, the Buffaloes, and Deion Sanders. So, Sanders' contract guarantees him through 2029, but the length of his tenure is uncertain. It's another losing season for Sanders after their loss to West Virginia this weekend. They have officially been eliminated from bowl contention. I'm curious to know, how much longer do you think we'll see Deion in Colorado, despite what his contract might say?
I think his stubbornness will have him there for at least 2 more years. It's hard because when people ask him about it, he does get a little defensive because he's like, I want to be here. I love being here. But it's like, can we ignore the health concerns, right? Can we ignore what we're seeing this season where, your sons are not there? So we all are looking at your team kind of in a clear lens. It's very even for us. And they have been bad this year. They've had quarterback issues. Now Julian Lewis is starting, and then Caden Salter was, they had the third string out there. It hasn't really come together. They've had some really embarrassing losses. It gets to a point, even if you love Deion a lot, I think the football side of it for all of us, and I would assume probably for Colorado, is like, we still got to win games though. Like, we still have to be able to contend and to succeed, and they're not doing that this year for whatever reason that may be. So I don't know. I don't know if anyone else would feel like he could be a great head coach at their program, because I think the stakes are a little bit higher at other places. For Colorado, they wanted a savior and they got that. And I think a part of them are okay with whatever happens because of what they've been able to see the last couple of years has kind of surpassed what has happened in the last, 10, 15. So, I mean, I don't think they're ever going to push him out. He would have to leave. And that would be hard for me to think he'd be like, yeah, I'm done. Because of how he's kind of always talking like, I want to be here. I'm going to stay here. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But I guess 2 years, if I wanted to think of, a timeline.
See, it's interesting because I look at it from the perspective of, you brought up a good point where Deion has brought value in other aspects outside of, a winning season, right? He's brought attention, he's brought money, he's brought really emphasis on money from a lot of different perspectives, ticket sales,
Yep.
NIL, to a program that hasn't seen that level of recognition, that level of attention in the program's history, I would feel like it's safe to say. So there's definitely wins from that perspective. Now, you look at quite literally the wins on the field and the record that he's produced since he's been there, and you start to kind of tilt your head a bit and question, what am I seeing here? And I'm curious to know from the Colorado athletic director's POV and some of their board members and some of their, boosters and people who are funding these NIL, collectives that they've poured into this football organization. When are the wins coming? We're now entering another losing season. When does that time come where they say, hey, is Deion really our guy anymore? Or do we feel like we've gotten the value out of him that we have, and it's time for us to move on and focus on building a winning program at this point? You've brought up good points too about his health. That's been a concern. I think that plays a role not only with his time here at Colorado, but even if there was another opportunity to pop up in the future. I know there's been some conversation about, okay, if Deion were to leave, where would he go? Is he even marketable elsewhere? That's also, I feel like, a huge question. Do you agree, disagree? What are your thoughts on, if he were to leave, do you think he would have a coaching career after Colorado?
I guess, to be fair, because I think sometimes people hear us talk about Deion or just people in general, and if you say anything contrary to goodness, that means we're against Colorado and Deion and all that. I don't know if another school would want to take Deion on just because he's Deion Sanders. I think you get to play that card a few times and then it runs out. Like, I think he was able to play it with Jackson State, right? And it worked. They had success. You got to play it with Colorado. Does another school, kind of like you said, like a Florida State, are they sitting there letting you come in here just because of the name? Like if you're Florida State, you're like, well, look, we're kind of watching what you're doing at Colorado, and like it's not looking too good. We already got a situation over here. Like we got to win now. We don't have time to wait. I think he's marketable in the sense that he's prime time, right? This is Coach Prime. You're going to get great quotes. People love him. He's arguably one of the greatest athletes that we have ever seen grace this earth, right? He is charismatic. We will always root for him. We love it when we see him healthy. We love it when they're winning. But it is hard to ignore that if you can't do it there, it's hard for me to believe you could do it here. And I think to be a head coach in college football, it is hard. It is a full-time job. You hear how some of these guys are like, I don't have a life. They're younger or even they're older. And you hear Nick Saban say, I couldn't go anymore. It just wasn't fun anymore. Like the NIL change thing. It's different. Bill Belichick is out here learning a very tough lesson. Sometimes you got to go ahead and leave while you're hot. And now you're in the college football space and everyone's like, this is not good. And I think it's almost the same thing for Deion. At this point, Colorado, I see as the landing place. I don't see another school saying from higher caliber of Colorado being like, come coach here. That would be hard for me to believe.
You brought up FSU, and that was one that I was going to mention as well, because the likelihood of Mike Norvell leaving is high. FSU is obviously Deion's alma mater. There's very close ties there. The likelihood that he could end up there is higher than, some other coaches that might be in the conversation or consideration. But again, it comes down to that marketability piece. And it seems like this might be the end of the road when it comes to his coaching career. It might just end at Colorado, or it might end at a place that really just needs that wow factor that can draw that attention, like he did at Colorado, like he did at Jackson State. Only time will tell. He still has a job. We're speaking prematurely, so we're not gonna, wish him out. Hopefully things turn around at Colorado for the Buffaloes, and they end up having some winning seasons in the future with Deion at the helm. But as of right now, it's a hot question, hot topic, and of course, as always, chat, we want to hear your take. But we're gonna go ahead and jump into some NFL conversation. The Falcons headed to Germany this week to play my Colts and lost in overtime, making this their fourth loss in a row, and they dropped to 3-6. A lot of Falcons fans are saying it is time for Raheem Morris to go. Lachelle, what is your take on that?
No, dang. Why are you always trying to get somebody fired? Okay, my question, I'm answering with a question. Sure. Who would you want to see be the head coach then if you let Morris go?
I'm not saying that he should go. If that's what fans are saying.
You're like, look, I'm just telling you what the people are saying.
I'm just telling you what the conversation is in the world, in the internet. I didn't say that was my take. Now,
I guess I'm like, who do we think would be better? I think that's my biggest thing. Do I think the Falcons have regressed? Yes. But I think that's a conversation of a deeper organization and the history of this organization not being great. I don't know if that's all on him. I think the foundation was already rocky once you sit there and pay, Kirk Cousins all that doggone money coming off of an injury. And then you sit there and then go draft Michael Penix Jr. And everybody's like, now, wait a minute. Then you got Kirk talking about he didn't even know you were going to do that. And then all of a sudden you have all this mess. Then he ends up getting benched. Now it's Michael Penix's team. Now you got this expensive bag up. Just, I think there's a lot. There's a lot there. We've seen the spurts of that. It could be better. But I guess to Falcons fans, at least I see the problem. I just don't know if it's fully him.
I agree. I don't think it's fully him. And that's why I said I don't have an answer for you, because I don't necessarily think he's the problem. I think you talk about foundation. I really look to ownership as maybe the piece that needs to be fixed. While I don't think that anybody is going to come in and force Arthur Blank to sell or be less involved in this Falcons organization, I do feel like they need an owner who is more committed to this team instead of like, hey, I'm just going to be here when I feel like being here, and then kind of leave it to the minority owners to delegate and figure it out and go on. So, from there and so forth. But at the same time, to play devil's advocate, under Blank, they've had more success than they've seen from previous owners. Prior to today's loss, I believe his current record was set exactly at 50%, despite them ultimately entering what's probably going to be an 8-year playoff drought. It's kind of balances itself out. It's like, okay, yeah, you're right there, kind of you've never had like that losing record, but we've also never seen postseason play before. I also feel like a lot of people think Penix was more of a seal, and he's turned out to be more of a band-aid. He wasn't the solution. Respectfully, I feel like that was the nicest way I could say it. Chat, tell me if I'm wrong.
You just call this man a band-aid. I have never heard somebody characterize a quarterback. That I have to use that because I was like, where is she going with this? Because I'm thinking seal like
the animal.
The animal.
Yeah.
So I'm like, seal. And then you're like, band-aid. I'm like, wow, that I don't know how I would feel if somebody told me I was just the band-aid.
No,
because that means I'm not the real solve. Like, I'm not the real fix.
And would you say he is?
No, I wouldn't. I mean,
exactly.
I wouldn't have took him in the first round. So I was already shocked when he ended up getting that phone call anyway, to be fair. I'm like, out of all the guys you could have got, like, no offense to Michael Penix Jr., I think what we saw in that last year at Washington was amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know. And I think we saw little glimpses, and everybody was like, we get real thirsty over young quarterbacks when they have like a good few games towards the end of the season. And we're like, they're going to be the best thing ever. And when they have a full season and now we're watching him, and to your point, you kind of sit there and you go, man, you were the Band-Aid. Dang. That's tough.
And that's why I use that analogy. Okay.
Yeah. Falcons fans, Bailey said it, not me.
Louis in the chat said we need to clip that. Somebody clip that. Somebody post this. Somebody tag us. Because, yeah, he's a Band-Aid when y'all thought he was a seal. I'm sorry, but
I can see it.
Y'all just needed to rely on him a little bit less. A little bit less. That's all I got to say. But Raheem Morris, I don't think he needs to go. I think there's a lot of other things that need to be evaluated before we ultimately play the blame game and put it all on him. But that's just my 2 cents of advice. That's our 2 cents of advice for y'all Falcons fans out there listening. On that note, we're going to play another game of Hot or Not. We brought this segment to life last week, and we're running it back again this week because the NBA is just so dang good this year. A fun fact, they've put up some of the best viewership numbers this season than they have in a very long time. I want to say that the opening week saw the most amount of viewers that they've seen in the last 15 years. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But we've been seeing some really good basketball. We've talked about this a little bit before. These guys are hooping. So, like I said, another week of basketball has passed. I want to get a gauge on which players and which teams are hot or not. You guys understand the rules. You got to play along in the chat. You guys were playing along with us last week, and we loved you for that. So we're going to go ahead and start off with our hot list. Lachelle, I'm going to toss it to you. Who you got?
I got the Los Angeles Lakers. Despite the bad loss to the Hawks recently, I'm erasing that out of my head. Before that, number 1 in the West, 7-2. I like how they're looking offensively. I think they have a rhythm. Shout out to DeAndre Ayton. Didn't think he was going to be this good of a compliment to this team, but he has proven me wrong. Luka, AR, they're hooping. I'm liking how the Lakers look, despite how everyone feels talking about Bron's going to come back and is going to set them back. I think once he comes back, it's going to be really fun for all of them, really, to see what this team could look like at full strength. So the Lakers are on my hot list.
Nice. I like that pick. I'm going to go the player route, and I'm going to give 2 shout outs to 2 players on the same team, actually. So we're focusing on the Pistons this week. I wish Quincy was in the chat, because I know he would probably have something to say about this, considering Quincy is a Laker. But we've got his teammates Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham. Both of them are putting up some crazy double-doubles. I'm talking 20, 30-point double-doubles back-to-back-to-back games. This is through just the first few games of the season. Focusing on Jalen specifically, I saw a stat saying that he has the most double-doubles by a player under age 25 since the beginning of last season, and that number is at 75. Mind you, he's only 21. So Jalen is a hot on my list right now, but I think he should be a hot on everyone's list for the next 5 years minimum. The kid's special. Like I said, turn your eyes to Cade Cunningham. He's putting up similar numbers. And Cade, out of everybody, he deserves the success. He deserves the conversation. He deserves the notoriety. This man was drafted to one of the worst teams in the NBA history. He lost an NBA record 28 straight games. He's been through the trenches with this team. He is trying to bring basketball back to Detroit. He never complained. He never blamed his teammates. He never asked for a trade. He just put his head down and worked, and we are seeing the fruits of his labor this season. I'm impressed by what I'm seeing from the Pistons. I've been saying from the jump that this is going to be a competitive team in the East, one that everybody in the league, not only the Eastern Conference, is going to have to watch out for. Jalen, Cade, you are on my hot list this week. Now I want to know who is on your not list.
The Dallas Mavericks. They are horrible. They are on my not list. Many people can get the blame. I don't think it's just Klay Thompson like everyone's trying to do. I think as an organization, all of it is a not. You sit there and you traded away your future for a win now mentality that they felt was going to pay off, and it hasn't. That's no diss to AD. I think he's doing the best that he can, but you got Cooper Flag out here playing out of position, which doesn't make a lot of sense. That's for Jason Kidd to figure out, so he gets some blame. They just look bad. Dirk Nowitzki said it on NBA on Prime. He was like, they can't make a shot. It's bad basketball. Like, nothing is good. Kyrie Irving, I think everyone now is seeing the importance of having a point guard, being able to facilitate and get everyone in space. But it also brings us back to, you got to have shot makers. And Luka was a shot maker. And now you don't have that. So big on my not list. I'm talking about 3 red underlines not. It is the Dallas Mavericks.
I'm talking about in it. All right, y'all. If you get the reference, you get the reference. But anyways, on my not list, I'm going another player route. We've got, drum roll, please, Ja Morant. I'm tired of seeing Ja Morant in suspension in the same sentence now. Chat, I can't be the only one that feels this way. You know, clearly he's not happy with his coaching situation in Memphis. It might be time for a trade. I will say he is playing well, and the team has almost a 60% win percentage with Morant in the lineup. So, of course, there is a desire to keep him from a Grizzlies standpoint. I don't think they want to let him go, but there's the caveat. You know, this only applies when he's on the floor. The best ability is availability, and Morant has missed plenty of games in the past due to either injury or suspension. And like I said, I'm just tired of seeing Ja Morant suspension. I'm tired of it. Chat, I'm tired. And I know y'all are too. I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. So as a result, Ja is on my not list for the week. Lachelle, you had some opposition, so I want to hear, why were you saying no?
I didn't think the suspension was even necessary. I felt like that was very extra. Like, people, sure, everyone's like, well, I feel like he shouldn't have said anything. But I'm like, he technically didn't say that much. He just told y'all, like, ask the coaching staff. Like, let them tell it. They don't want me there. Like, to me, I'm like, do I really suspend my guy one game? That's petty. Over some comments. I would have been like, hey, we're discussing it behind closed doors. He had a moment of frustration. Let's hash it out. But I'm looking at the organization. Now, does he deserve accountability? Yes. But to be fair, he ain't been suspended since 2023. My boy did it. He did his time for the crime already. You know, so I'm like, I feel like everybody acting like he's been suspended like every other week. And I'm like, dang, dog, like, you ain't been suspended in a while, which is why I'm more mad at the Grizzlies, because now you're starting the conversation where you end up on Bailey's not list because you're allowing a suspension to be next to his name. And now we're discussing him. So it's, again, accountability for both. But I am looking at the Grizzlies like, do you not want to keep your young star? Because after you suspend me, I'm trading myself. I'm packing my own bags.
So if you're Ja, you're requesting a trade. You're out the door.
You saw what Kevin Durant told T. Morant on the sideline when they was playing. He said, your son don't even want to be here. He said, this your last weekend. Like, he don't even want to be. So if other players notice, because I think other players are like, all right, like he did what he did and he's already paid for that. But like, suspending him one game is like, okay, if he wanted to leave, I don't think anyone would be mad at him. I mean, they technically kind of let the team go in little ways. You get rid of Dylan Brooks, you get rid of Desmond Bain, you got rid of Taylor Jenkins. Like, at this point, they kind of started the yard sale a little early. And I think he was left to be like, oh, wait, so what am I supposed to do here? And now he doesn't have a good relationship with the coach, which is what they're reporting. So it's like, I'm with KD. This y'all last weekend here, man. Your son don't even, that was so funny. He don't even want to be here. He don't even want to be here.
Yeah, he said, Unc, it's time. It's time to go sit on somebody else's sideline and wreak havoc, but not here in Memphis anymore. We're not doing that. Hey, you bring up a good point. Maybe it's the Grizzlies that's putting the Ja Morant spotlight back into the or I guess the Ja Morant being back in the spotlight is largely influenced by them. I didn't think of it from that perspective. See, this is why we have Hot or Not, so we can talk things out. We can debate.
Exactly.
That's what this is for. I appreciate the perspective. Chat, let me know what you think about that. We're going to go ahead and move into a little college basketball conversation. Chat, we haven't had any college basketball talk yet, but I mean, the season just started this past week, and hey, these teams have been hooping. Specifically, I want to talk about one of the most anticipated names of the college basketball season, Kiyan Anthony. Now, if you don't know anything about that name, just know he's at Syracuse. Anthony, piece it together, boom, boom, bam, bam. He's Carmelo's son, okay? In his first college start, Kiyan posted 19 points, 4 assists, and 3 rebounds for Syracuse. He came into the season with all the hype in the world and then some. I know it's early, but what kind of year do you expect to see out of Kiyan?
It's going to be solid. I mean, I'm glad Syracuse didn't stay stubborn and keep him coming off the bench. I didn't think that made any logical sense. But you see now in his first career start, he played really solid. That's a solid stat line. Free throws still need to be a little bit better, and he talked about that after the game. But he looks great. I mean, he looks like he is a college basketball player that at any moment can take over a game. And that's all you really want him to look like so early in the season, as though he could stack chips and look really solid. So 3-level scorer, you saw him defend out there a little bit. I think he's going to have a good year. I don't know if it's like a top 20 type of year, but I think definitely in the conversation, if he keeps on the trajectory he's on, that it wouldn't surprise me if any team took him in the first round.
You think he's a one and done?
I don't know, because I watched 7 p.m. and Melo said that when talking to him, they don't talk about one and done. They kind of talk about like, let's just see what it looks like. What does the journey look like? So I guess maybe for them, it's like, if you keep playing how you're playing and say it really gets so undeniable that you should go, then let's do that. But I think for him, maybe staying one more year, which is the same thing I thought for Bronny and for a lot of these guys, I do believe a year 2 for Kiyan will put him exactly where I think he wants to be, because this freshman class is stacked. And 1 through like 10 is kind of already laid out. And I think he would have to do some tremendous work to find himself in that conversation per se. So it wouldn't bother me if he stayed another year. I think actually that would be really great. 1, for college basketball from a marketing perspective, but also from him in a developmental standpoint, because when you're in stat classes, it's hard, and it's hard to kind of cement yourself as the guy. So maybe not one and done. I hope not one and done, but if he just keeps hooping, I mean, I wouldn't be mad at it.
Yeah, like you said, from a developmental standpoint, and another year never hurts as long as you don't get hurt. You know, that's obviously the key there, because you always risk, no matter what the sport is, injury, coming back and playing, another year collegiately if you can go pro. So as long as that stays true, I think that extra year is definitely something that he should heavily consider. Granted, it's still so early. I mean, we're talking about first week college basketball, so this conversation could go any type of way. You mentioned this being a really stacked freshman class. Someone in the chat pointed out Cameron Boozer is the best freshman in the nation. He's at Duke. He had an insane debut. Oh my God, 33 points, 12 rebounds. Chat, that he might be one of the best freshmen in this class. And not even one of the best. He might be the best. Lachelle, thoughts, opinions, feelings, comments, concerns about Mr. Boozer over here at Duke?
Cameron Boozer is really good. A lot of people feel like he is kind of like Cooper Flag, but a little bit bigger, and a little bit different in his approach. I like Cameron Boozer. I think I have critiques to his game from the first game of the season where I think it took him a while to get going, but he is a guy that can figure it out. He's really gifted and he's really special. I just think for a lot of these guys, not just him, it's going to come down to when they start having one-on-one matchups with other guys in their class that they're going to have to prove how good they are. So like for Darren Peterson, who I think very much deserves a number one pick for Kansas, him and Caleb Wilson go head to head in the Kansas UNC game, and Caleb Wilson just dominates. So it's like, I think I need to see that from Cameron Boozer. I need to see you against some really, really good comp for me to feel like you're the complete thing. AJ DeBansa, same way. I would put him in that conversation of like, I got to see y'all against some comp. I got to see Darren Peterson and Caleb Wilson go head to head, and it made me feel very confident about Darren, but also made me look at Caleb Wilson and be like, whoa, this class is different. So I want to see them get some comp. But yes, Cameron Boozer is amazing. He's going to be a top 2 pick, I'm sure of it. And rightfully so. Rightfully so.
Yeah, chat. Like I said, it's the very beginning of the college basketball season. We've got so many more weeks to go, months to go. Matter of fact, we will be talking about it live on here every Sunday. So we will jump back into that a little bit later. But now I want to toss it to Lachelle for our favorite segment of the night. And we've got one of my favorite topics as one of these hot takes. Lachelle, what do we got?
All right. We got your hot take, you guys. We're going to keep it short and sweet because it seems like y'all are also Colts fans. So that's very interesting to me here, okay? Our hot take we got is Colts are going to win big this year. I'm going to assume by win big, do you mean win it all and that they're going to the Super Bowl? Maybe. Do I believe they could win their division? Yes. So I'm with you.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna echo that. I think the Colts, I did a take earlier this week where I said that, specifically talking about the Sauce Gardner move, what that indicates for this team. To me, it said we are all in and now or never. It is a perfect opportunity for the Colts to kind of come in, sneak past the Chiefs when they're having a little bit of an off year, and be the top team in the AFC. But some people brought to my attention, and I think this is a very valid point, that they need to see a team beat the Chiefs in the playoffs in order to feel confident about anybody else moving past them. And I understand that. I mean, the Chiefs historically play very well in the postseason, and I would understand going back or siding with the Chiefs when it came to choosing who was going to come out of the AFC. The Colts are inexperienced, and they haven't been to the playoffs in 5+ years. I might be even more if I'm not mistaken, but I'm optimistically cautious. I would love to see the Colts in deep postseason action. I would love to see the Colts in the Super Bowl. I mean, we haven't seen that in a very long time. So, I've got my courtesy of Fanatics Lululemon Colts little whatever this jacket's called. But I'm all for that take, and I appreciate the indie people riding behind the Colts, and just even not the indie people, just people who are new fans and wanting this franchise to win. So like I said, love the take. I think that winning big is relative. I think that a big win for them could just mean going to the AFC Championship, and and I think that's a big win for us at the end of the day. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Super Bowl. So, I hope one of those things comes true. That's all I'll say. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. It's in the future.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it deep down in my soul. All right, chat. Thank you so much for your submissions. Like I said, we're going to keep it short and sweet tonight. Hit that sub button, hit that follow button. If you miss any part of the stream, don't worry. Every episode is posted on YouTube the following day on Mondays at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific. On that note, chat, thank you again for another episode of Off the Record. We're out.